She was small, scared, and hiding in the ruins of a battlefield. Glowing red eyes. Just like the legend said, I had no idea who she was, until the sky opened up and a ship black as death came for her. I saved her life without thinking, but I didn't know. She was the daughter of the vampire queen of Droska Prime. And now, that same queen is standing in front of me, tall, deadly, and beautiful. And instead of killing me, she says 5 words I never expected. You will be my husband. But what she didn't tell me is that marrying her might destroy the entire galaxy. Welcome to a brand new story. My name is Michael, and I'll be your voice through this journey. I'm the voiceover artist for this channel. Now sit back, turn up the volume, because this one goes deep. She looked just like a child, small, scared, sitting in the middle of a burning war zone. But her eyes were glowing red, the kind of red that makes monsters run, the kind of red that tells you she's not human. Jack didn't know who she was. He just knew one thing. She was about to die, and someone had to save her. He thought he was just helping a lost little girl. But what he didn't know was that she was royal blood, the daughter of the vampire queen of Droska Prime, and saving her life would change his forever. Because the queen doesn't forget loyalty, and she doesn't give rewards. She claims them. The sky was dark. Smoke was rising. The battlefield had turned into a junkyard. Commander Jack Weston stepped over a pile of broken metal, scorched alien tech, and a crushed helmet with fresh blood still dripping. He wasn't supposed to be here. The orders were clear. Pull back, regroup, evacuate. But Jack heard something. A soft sound under the wreckage, like crying. At first he thought it was a mistake. Maybe a broken signal, a glitch in his helmet feed. But the sound didn't stop. It was a child's cry. He moved fast, pushing broken parts aside. A steel panel groaned, then shifted. And there she was. A little girl, maybe 6 or 7 years old, crouched in the center of a scrap dump. Her clothes were torn. Her hands were cut. Her body shook. But her eyes, they were glowing red. Not just light red, blood red. Jack froze. He had seen those eyes before, in reports, in mission logs, in warnings. Droskan blood. That meant one thing. This child wasn't just alien. She was dangerous. But Jack didn't raise his weapon. She wasn't fighting. She was crying. He took a step forward. She didn't move. Another step, and she looked up at him. Her face was dirty, a deep scratch ricocheted and down her cheek. But behind the fear, he saw something else. Trust. Hey, he whispered, keeping his voice low. You okay? She didn't speak. She just reached out her hand. And Jack made the worst, or maybe the best decision of his life. He picked her up. She held on to him tightly, like she had been waiting for someone. Maybe anyone. That's when he heard it. A loud whir in the distance. Something was coming. Fast. Jack ducked behind a burnt-out crawler tank, holding the girl close. Through the smoke, he saw it. A black drone, Droskan-made, scanning the wreckage. It hovered, clicked, and fired a flash of light right where the girl had been hiding seconds ago. They were looking for her, and they weren't here to rescue. They were here to erase. Jack whispered to her, "Don't make a sound." She nodded. The drone moved on. Jack waited, heart pounding. 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 30. Silence. He looked down at her, still shaking, still silent, still glowing. He checked the skies. They were alone, for now. "All right," he said quietly. "Let's get out of here." He moved fast, crossing back through the wrecked field. His boots crunched over bones and tech. Flames crackled behind him. The girl whispered something. It was soft, like a whisper in the wind. "Mom." Jack looked down. "Where is she?" he asked. The girl pointed to the horizon, where the mountains touched the sky. "Palace," she whispered. "They took it." Jack didn't ask who they were. He already knew. This child wasn't just a daughter. She was the heir, and the Droskan queen would never allow her to fall into enemy hands, unless something terrible had already happened. That night under the stars, Jack found a small cave and lit a quiet fire. The girl was asleep beside him, still holding his jacket. He watched the flames. This wasn't just a rescue anymore. This was a message, and whoever wanted her dead wouldn't stop. Not now, not ever. The fire cracked softly. Jack leaned against the cold cave wall, his rifle beside him, his hand never far from the trigger. His eyes never left the girl. Even in sleep, her body trembled, like her nightmares were more dangerous than the battlefield they had just escaped. He didn't even know her name. But somehow, she had become his responsibility. He could have left her there in the junk pile, like everyone else did. But he didn't. Because something about her felt different. Not just her glowing eyes, not just the strange symbols on her wrist, not even the warmth in her cold alien hands. It was her silence. Not a single scream, not a single complaint. Just survival. This girl had seen death. Too much of it. And something inside Jack connected to that. Suddenly, a sound. Not far. Jack snapped to his feet. A faint humming, electric, mechanical. He peeked out from the cave entrance, eyes sharp. Down in the trees below, 3 small lights hovered. Drones. Droskan hunters. They were sweeping the area, scanning for heat, movement, blood. Jack whispered, "Stay quiet." But the girl was already awake. She looked up at him. No fear, only focus, like she had been trained for this her whole life. Jack nodded to her. She understood without a word. He doused the fire with dirt, grabbed his gear, and scooped her into his arms. Then he ran, through the trees, down the slope, moving low, fast, silent. The drones buzzed above, red lights flashing through the night fog. Jack dodged behind an old wreck, an ancient shuttle half buried in roots and vines. One drone passed overhead, another stopped, hovered, beeped. Jack didn't breathe. The girl didn't blink. Then the drone turned and flew away. Jack waited. 5 seconds. 10. Gone. He let out a breath, then looked down at the girl and froze. Her eyes were glowing brighter, like something had awakened in her, like she knew. This wasn't over. She turned her head to the mountains again, her voice calm, low, steady. "Mom is hurt." Jack blinked. "What?" The girl looked at him, then whispered, "They betrayed her." Jack didn't know what that meant. He didn't ask. But he knew one thing now, clearer than ever. Whoever this child was. She wasn't just royal. She was a target, a threat, a reason for others to kill or bow. And Jack was now caught in the middle of something far bigger than war, something ancient, something deadly. And it all started with a little girl in a scrap dump, and a decision he couldn't take back. The trees whispered as they moved. Thick fog curled around Jack's boots, the kind that hides footsteps and smells like old blood. The forest was ancient, cold, watching them. Branches above twisted like claws. The moonlight barely reached the ground. The girl held his hand tighter now. She hadn't said another word since she whispered, "They betrayed her." Jack wanted to ask more, but something told him, not here. Not while the trees listened. They walked for hours. No path, no sound, only wind, and the low hum of danger. Every few minutes, Jack paused and checked behind them. The drones hadn't returned, but something was close. He could feel it, in the way the forest went silent, in the way even the wind stopped moving. Then, he smelled it. Blood. Not fresh. Old, but thick. The air was heavy with it, and up ahead, the trees opened into a wide, quiet clearing. At the center, a tree darker than the rest. Its roots stretched like veins, and at its base, bodies. Alien soldiers, at least 10. Their armor crushed, faces twisted, blood dried to black, each one torn open. Jack stepped forward slowly. The girl let go of his hand and walked to the base of the tree. She didn't cry. She just stared at one of the dead Droskans, then whispered, "He tried to help us." Jack knelt beside the body. The soldier's face was younger than he expected. Not a warlord, not a monster. Someone's brother, someone's son. There was a small badge on the armor, Royal Guard. Jack understood now. "They came here to protect you," he said softly. The girl nodded. "But the others turned. The Queen's own council. They wanted power." She looked up at Jack, her red eyes glowing like fire under ash. "They want the throne." Jack stood. This wasn't just a royal fight anymore. It was a civil war. Suddenly, a crack in the branches. Not a bird, not an animal. Footsteps. Slow, heavy, deliberate. Jack raised his rifle and turned toward the trees. "Stay behind me," he said. The girl didn't move. Then, a figure stepped out of the shadows. Tall, armored, Droskan, but not like the guards. This one wore black spiked armor, glowing blue veins across the chest plate. A bounty hunter, no doubt. The figure stared at Jack, then at the girl, then spoke. "The Queen is dead," he said coldly. Jack's heart stopped. The girl froze. "No," she whispered. The bounty hunter's voice was like gravel. "You should have left her in the junkyard, human." He raised a long, curved weapon, Droskan tech, deadly at close range. Jack didn't wait. He fired. The first shot hit the armor. No effect. The second hit the hunter's leg. He staggered. But not enough. The hunter lunged forward, slamming Jack to the ground. The girl screamed. Jack rolled, grabbed a rock, and smashed it into the hunter's helmet. Crack! He kicked free, grabbed his rifle. Boom! The third shot hit the hunter straight in the chest, right between the armor plates. He dropped, silent, dead. Jack breathed hard. His hands were shaking. The girl ran to him and hugged him tight. "She's not dead," she whispered. "She can't be." Jack didn't speak. He looked at the hunter's body, then at the badge on the chest. It wasn't just a bounty hunter, it was an executioner, a high-level assassin sent only by royal command, or rebellion. Someone powerful wanted the girl gone. No trace, no witnesses, which meant they feared her. Jack looked up at the sky through the trees. Dawn was coming, light was returning, but his path was only getting darker. He picked her up, held her close, and whispered, "Then let's find your mother." Before they do. The sun had barely risen when Jack and the girl reached the edge of the dark forest. Before them lay the ancient city of Droska Prime. Tall spires reached into the sky like claws, wrapped in mist and shadow. Jack tightened his grip on the girl's hand. The closer they got, the heavier the air felt. She whispered, "The Queen waits." Jack's heart beat faster. He wasn't just walking into a city. He was walking into a kingdom ruled by fear, power, and secrets. As they entered the city gates, guards in black armor watched silently. No one spoke. No one smiled. They moved through the streets like ghosts. At the center stood the palace, a towering fortress with walls of dark stone and blood-red banners. Jack could feel the weight of 1,000 eyes. Suddenly, a deep voice echoed through the hall. "You have returned." The vampire queen stepped into the light. Her eyes burned like embers. Her hair was as black as night, flowing down her shoulders. Her armor shimmered with crimson light. She looked at Jack, not with anger, but with something else, respect. "You saved my daughter." Her voice was soft, but fierce. Jack nodded. The girl clung to the queen's leg. Jack felt a chill. This was not a welcome. It was a test. The queen turned to Jack. "You chose to protect her, against all odds." Jack swallowed. "I did what I thought was right." The queen smiled. "Then you are not like the others." She stepped closer. "Join me. Be my husband." Jack's world spun. The queen's offer was more than marriage. It was alliance, power, danger. He looked into her eyes, saw the weight of her crown, the blood spilled for her throne, the war waiting to explode. Jack realized this was no longer just survival. This was a choice, to stand beside the vampire queen or fight against her, and there was no turning back. Jack stood frozen. The vampire queen's offer echoed in his ears. "Be my husband." He felt eyes watching from every shadow, waiting for his answer, judging every breath he took. The little girl held onto her mother's leg tightly, her glowing red eyes wide, hopeful. Jack finally spoke, voice steady despite his racing heart. "Why me?" The queen stepped closer, her face softened slightly. "Because you risked everything for a child you didn't know." She looked around, coldly addressing her guards and generals, who glared silently from the shadows. "My own people betrayed me. My council tried to kill my daughter, to take my throne." Her eyes returned to Jack. But a human, an enemy, protected her, showed true honor, true strength. Jack felt a chill. Every Droskan warrior stared at him now, angry whispers spreading like fire. The queen's voice grew stronger, more commanding. "Today, I choose loyalty over blood, courage over fear." She turned back to Jack, eyes glowing fiercely. "So, Commander Jack Weston, will you stand by me?" Jack swallowed, his throat dry. He had faced armies, battles, but never a choice like this. Then he looked down at the child. She smiled softly, trusting, hopeful. In her eyes, he saw innocence, the reason he fought. Slowly, Jack raised his head, eyes meeting the queen's powerful gaze. "Yes," he whispered, "I'll stand by you." The palace exploded into noise, shouts of anger, weapons raised. But the queen stood tall, unwavering. "Anyone who questions my choice steps forward now," she challenged. The room grew silent. The warriors lowered their weapons slowly, reluctantly. But Jack knew this wasn't acceptance. It was fear. The queen reached out, taking Jack's hand in hers. Her touch was strangely gentle, yet cold, powerful. "From this day forward," she declared, her voice booming across the hall, "Commander Jack Weston is mine, and I am his." That night, Jack paced his new chambers. Walls decorated with dark silk, heavy curtains blocking out the moons. He wasn't sure if he felt safer now, or trapped. A knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. He opened it cautiously. The little girl stood there, clutching a tiny stuffed creature in her hand. She smiled shyly. "My name is Mira." Jack knelt to her level. "I'm Jack." "I know." She held up her small toy. "Mom gave me this to keep me safe. Now you keep me safe." Jack felt something tighten in his chest. It wasn't fear this time. It was responsibility. He nodded slowly. "I promise, Mira." But suddenly, the hall went dark. The lights flickered, then died completely. Jack grabbed Mira protectively. "Stay close," he whispered. Footsteps echoed outside, fast, aggressive. Something was coming. Jack reached for his weapon, but before he could move, a figure emerged from the shadows. A Droskin guard, weapon raised. His eyes full of hatred. He charged forward, blade flashing in the darkness. Jack barely dodged, holding Mira tightly. He spun and kicked the attacker back, sending him crashing to the floor, but more footsteps approached. They weren't alone. Jack realized the truth instantly. Not everyone accepted the Queen's choice. Some would rather see them all dead. Jack took Mira's hand and ran, shouting, "We need to get to your mother!" They sprinted down darkened hallways, footsteps thundering behind them. He burst into the throne room, breathless. But the Queen was already waiting, sword in hand, eyes burning red. "They're coming!" Jack gasped. She raised her chin, unafraid. "Then let them come. Together, we'll teach them loyalty." The massive doors burst open. Warriors poured inside, weapons drawn, faces twisted in rage. Jack raised his weapon beside the Queen. He glanced at Mira, safely hidden behind her throne, eyes wide with trust. "Remember your promise," the Queen whispered fiercely to Jack. "Protect my daughter." Jack nodded, gripping his weapon tightly. He chose this fight, and he would fight until the end. Because now, they were his family too, and loyalty had a price. Chaos erupted in the throne room. Warriors rushed forward, screaming in anger, their weapons glowing with deadly blue energy. Jack stood shoulder to shoulder with the Vampire Queen. Her sword flashed red, reflecting the fury in her eyes. The first attacker swung violently. Jack dodged, countering quickly, sending him stumbling back. Another came from the side, blade raised. The Queen moved fast, striking him down instantly, coldly, silently. Jack had fought in many battles, but never beside someone so deadly, so fierce. "Behind you!" she shouted suddenly. Jack spun, barely dodging a blow. He kicked his attacker away, then aimed and fired. A brief silence fell as the attacker crumpled to the floor. But more flooded inside. They never stopped coming. Jack's muscles burned, but he wouldn't quit. Not now. Not when Mira was counting on him. Suddenly, a loud explosion shook the palace walls. Jack staggered, looking up in shock. A massive hole had opened in the ceiling. Enemy ships hovered above, engines roaring. They weren't rebels. They were assassins. A voice echoed through speakers overhead. "The throne belongs to us now. Surrender the Queen and her child." Jack felt the Queen stiffen beside him. Her voice trembled with rage. "They dare threaten my daughter." Jack placed a firm hand on her shoulder, looking directly into her fiery eyes. "We'll stop them. Together." She paused, studying him briefly, then nodded firmly. "For Mira," she said quietly. "For Mira," Jack agreed. Together they raced through the damaged hallways, avoiding falling debris. They reached Mira's hiding place behind the throne. She sat curled tightly, shaking. Jack reached out gently. "It's okay," he whispered. "We'll get you somewhere safe." Mira clung to him, eyes wide, trusting completely. The Queen looked deeply at Jack. For the first time, something softer flashed through her fierce eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. Then she stood tall again, sword raised. "We must reach the bunker beneath the palace. It's our only chance." Jack nodded. "Lead the way." Explosions erupted everywhere, walls cracking, floors shaking. Jack held Mira tightly, shielding her from flying rubble. At last they reached a massive metal door deep underground. The Queen placed her hand against the glowing red panel. The heavy door hissed open, revealing a hidden chamber. Jack rushed inside, placing Mira safely in a protective capsule. "Stay here," he whispered. "We'll be right back." She nodded bravely. Jack turned, joining the Queen at the doorway as enemies charged down the hall. They fought side by side, unstoppable, determined. Slowly, the attackers backed away, unable to break their defense. But just when victory seemed possible, a sharp metallic cry echoed through the halls. An enormous warrior appeared, armor thick, eyes cold as ice. The Queen froze, whispering a single word. "Kronos." Jack stared at her, confused. "A legend," she explained quickly. "An assassin who never fails." Jack raised his weapon. Then today, a legend falls. The assassin moved impossibly fast, attacking with brutal strength. Jack fought fiercely but was thrown back violently, weapons sliding across the floor. Kronos approached the queen, readying his blade for the final strike. Jack shouted, desperate, "No!" He lunged, tackling Kronos, sending them both crashing into the wall. Pain exploded through Jack's body, but he didn't stop. With a final surge of strength, he struck Kronos hard. Once, twice. The assassin stumbled, losing balance. The queen seized her chance. In a single powerful strike, her blade pierced Kronos' armor. Silence filled the hall. The legendary assassin fell, defeated. Jack collapsed, gasping for breath. The queen knelt beside him, touching his face softly, worry in her eyes. "You risked your life again." He managed a weak smile. "It's what family does." She smiled warmly, a smile he had never seen before. In that moment, Jack knew their bond was forged in blood, honor, and sacrifice. She helped him stand. "Come," she said gently. "Mira awaits us." They stepped back into the bunker. Mira ran forward, hugging them both tightly. "I knew you'd come back," she whispered. Jack held her close, promising silently he would never let anything happen to her again. Outside, fires burned. The palace lay in ruins. But deep beneath the destruction, hope survived. Because now, they were more than strangers. They were family. And together, they would face anything, even war itself. Jack stood quietly in the dark bunker beneath the ruined palace. His body ached, every muscle sore, every breath painful. But Mira was safe. And for now, that was all that mattered. The vampire queen watched him closely. Her fierce eyes were softer now, filled with silent gratitude. Jack sat down heavily, resting his back against the cold wall. Mira curled up beside him, quickly falling asleep. The queen sat opposite, her eyes never leaving Jack. He finally broke the silence. "Tell me, why did your own people turn against you?" She sighed deeply, her voice softer than ever before. "They think I became weak, that I care too much for peace. They wanted war, conquest, blood." Jack studied her carefully. "You don't seem weak to me." She smiled faintly. "Not weak, tired. Tired of violence, tired of war. I wanted a better future for Mira, for our people." She glanced down at her sleeping daughter, sadness in her eyes. Jack understood clearly. She wasn't just a queen, she was a mother, trying desperately to protect her child. "You took a huge risk trusting me," Jack whispered. She nodded gently. "Sometimes trust is all we have left." Suddenly, a soft beeping sound broke the silence. The queen instantly stood, tense, listening carefully. Jack reached for his weapon instinctively. The bunker's hidden communication panel flickered to life. A voice filled the small room. "My queen, forgive me." Jack recognized the voice immediately, one of her loyal guards. The queen stepped closer. "Speak quickly!" The voice trembled. "The rebels have taken full control of the palace. They think you and your daughter are dead." The queen looked sharply at Jack. "How many are loyal?" she asked urgently. "Enough," the guard replied. "They wait for your command, but hurry. The rebels plan to broadcast your supposed death galaxy-wide by dawn." Jack stood firmly beside the E-Queen. "We can't let that happen." She stared deeply into his eyes, determination burning brighter than ever. "No, we can't." She glanced at Mira one last time, then turned back to Jack. "I must confront them directly, but you must promise me one thing." Jack hesitated only briefly. "Anything. If anything happens, protect Mira, no matter the cost." Jack placed his hand on her shoulder, nodding seriously. "I promise." They moved quickly, silently through hidden passages beneath the palace. At last, they reached a secret doorway leading directly to the throne room. Inside, the traitors laughed loudly, celebrating their victory. The queen paused, taking a slow, deep breath, gathering her strength. Then she looked at Jack one last time. "For our family," she whispered fiercely. Jack nodded firmly. The door burst open. The queen stepped boldly forward, eyes blazing. "You celebrate too early," she said coldly. The traitors turned, shocked. The room fell silent instantly. Their leader, a tall Droskan general, stepped forward defiantly. "You should have stayed dead." She raised her blade, pointing straight at his heart. "And you should never have betrayed me." Jack stepped up beside her, weapon raised. The loyal guards appeared behind them, surrounding the traitors. The general hesitated, suddenly unsure. The queen spoke with authority. "Choose now, loyalty or death." The traitors exchanged nervous glances. Then slowly, reluctantly, they laid down their weapons. Jack let out a quiet breath of relief. The queen turned toward him, gratitude clear in her fierce eyes. "Thank you for keeping your promise." Jack simply nodded. Together they reclaimed the throne. But Jack knew the fight wasn't over yet. Later, as dawn approached, the queen stood before her people once more. Jack stood beside her, Mira holding his hand tightly, the queen's. Voice was strong, confident. "Today, loyalty conquered betrayal, unity defeated division, and courage silenced fear." She looked at Jack warmly. "From now on, human or Droskan, we are one." Cheers erupted throughout the hall, echoing across the palace. Jack glanced down at Mira's bright eyes and gentle smile. For the first time, he felt truly at home. But deep down, he knew peace wouldn't last. Enemies were still out there, waiting, plotting, hungry for revenge. But now he had something worth protecting, a promise worth fighting for. And he would keep that promise, no matter what darkness lay ahead. Peace settled briefly over Droska Prime, but peace was fragile, always. Jack knew that better than anyone. Days passed quickly, but the uneasy feeling never left him. He watched carefully as Mira played in the gardens, her laughter innocent, unaware of the dark clouds still gathering. The queen appeared quietly beside him. "You sense it too, don't you?" Jack nodded slowly. "They'll come again. Stronger next time." The queen looked worried, yet determined. "Then we will be ready." Jack glanced at her seriously. "What if it's not enough?" She smiled softly, something new in her eyes. "Then we fight until our last breath, together." Jack took a deep breath, accepting this truth. Together. That very night, the peace shattered. Alarms screamed through the palace. Lights flashed red, panic filling every hallway. Jack ran swiftly, meeting the queen outside Mira's room. "What's happening?" he demanded. The queen's face hardened instantly. "An army approaches. They've joined forces with human rebels. Your people." Jack felt his heart drop. "No." She touched his arm gently. "They fear our unity. They fear our strength." Jack nodded grimly. "Then we show them what unity really means." Outside, explosions rocked the palace walls. Jack and the queen rushed to the balcony overlooking the battlefield. A vast army stretched beyond the horizon, human soldiers standing shoulder to shoulder with Droskan rebels. Jack felt sick seeing his people ready to attack. Then a voice thundered from below. "Surrender the queen and the child!" Jack clenched his fists. "Never." The queen stood proudly, her voice clear and commanding. "You want blood? Come and take it." With that, the army surged forward. The battle raged fiercely. Warriors clashed, fires burned, screams echoed everywhere. Jack fought beside the queen, protecting her back as she guarded his. Trust flowed, naturally between them now. But the enemy was relentless. Slowly, the defenders fell back toward the throne room, numbers dwindling. Jack's weapon ran out of power. He drew a fallen soldier's sword, fighting desperately. Suddenly, Mira screamed behind them. Jack spun sharply. Enemy soldiers had breached their defenses, surrounding her. "Jack!" she cried desperately. His heart stopped. He had promised. He charged forward, cutting down enemy after enemy, ignoring the pain, the wounds, the exhaustion. He reached Mira, holding her tight. But behind him, he heard the queen cry out sharply. Jack turned, horror filling him. She was on her knees, wounded badly, enemy blades raised above her. "No!" Jack shouted desperately. The enemy general, human this time, stepped forward calmly. "Give us the child, and the queen lives." Jack's breath came hard. He looked into Mira's terrified eyes. He had seconds to decide. He stared directly at the queen. her gaze fierce, defiant. "Don't," she whispered weakly. "Protect Mira." Jack's choice was clear. He stood tall, shielding Mira with his body. "I made a promise, and I'm keeping it." The general smiled coldly. "Then watch her die." But before the blade fell, Jack shouted with all the strength he had left. "Enough!" His voice echoed loudly. Every soldier froze in confusion. Jack stepped forward boldly, facing the army, human and alien alike. "Look around you. You're not enemies. You fight for leaders who only seek power, not peace, not honor." Soldiers lowered their weapons slightly, hesitating. Jack continued fiercely, pain and courage burning inside him. "I was your enemy, yet I found loyalty here. Friendship, family. If I can, so can you." He pointed at the general sharply. "End this, now." For a long, tense moment, nobody moved. Then, slowly, a single soldier dropped his weapon, then another, and hit another. Soon, weapons fell everywhere. The general stood alone, shocked. Jack stepped closer, eyes blazing. "It's over." The general dropped his blade, defeated. Jack rushed to the queen, kneeling gently beside her. "Are you all right?" She smiled faintly, her wounds healing quickly, as only Droskins could. "Because of you." Mira ran forward, hugging them both tightly, relief clear on her face. Jack held them close, breathing deeply. They had survived the final test. Together. Later, as dawn spread softly over the battle-torn planet, Jack stood beside the Queen, overlooking their world together. Peace was returning, stronger now, forged by courage and sacrifice. She turned gently to Jack, taking his hand softly. "You've shown us what true honor means, Jack." Jack smiled, looking down at Mira, playing happily again. "I only kept my promise." She squeezed his hand gently. "Then let me make one now. Together, we'll protect this world, our family, forever." Jack nodded slowly, certainty filling his heart. Together, they had won more than a battle. They had created hope, and in the light of a new dawn, they stood ready for whatever came next, because now, nothing could break them apart. Not fear, not war, not even galaxies in flames, because loyalty, family, honor would always win. End of story.